and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating discoveries in the world of numismatics, where small pieces of metal often turn into treasures worth a fortune. And in this video we will be exploring the incredible story of the 2000 D1 dime coin from the United States that has captured so much attention because of its staggering value of around $350,000 despite having a face value of only 10 cents, a difference that stuns collectors, investors, and ordinary people alike. And this value is not just about the age of the coin or the fact that it is made of common materials, but rather because of the combination of unique errors, minting mistakes, and rare mint mark anomalies that together transform an everyday coin into something extraordinary. So as we move forward in this script, we will unpack everything about how such an error coin is created, what makes it so rare, why collectors are willing to pay such massive amounts, and the many possibilities behind these minting irregularities that ultimately create historic value for a coin that millions of Americans may have unknowingly held in their hands without realizing they could be holding a small fortune. And let us begin by considering the context of the year 2000, when the Denver Mint was producing millions of dimes for circulation, most of which were struck properly, evenly, and without notable distinction, yet in the process of high-speed minting, it is not uncommon for errors to occur. And when those errors go unnoticed and coins enter circulation, they eventually become rare jewels for collectors once discovered. And in the case of the 2000 D dime, several varieties of errors have been recorded and speculated upon, ranging from off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, to double die errors where lettering or imagery appears double due to die misalignment, to die cracks and cuts where raised lines and shapes emerge from flaws in the minting equipment, and even rare occurrences of wrong planchet errors where a coin may be struck on a blank intended for another denomination. But one of the most talked about features of the 2000 D dime is its mint mark error, because the D mint mark indicating Denver is often an area prone to striking anomalies, misplacement, weak strikes, or even partial disappearance, which make the coin unusual compared to the millions of regular 2000 dimes produced. And when this is combined with additional striking errors or unique die flaws, the coin becomes one of a kind. And in numismatics, rarity is everything, because rarity combined with demand drives price. And this is precisely why a dime worth 10 cents at the grocery store can suddenly achieve an auction value of $350,000. And imagine the astonishment of someone who happens to find such a coin in their pocket change. Because for most of us a dime is an afterthought, something tossed into a coin jar or dropped into a parking meter without notice. Yet with this coin, the presence of rare errors transforms it into a potential life-changing discovery. And it is important to understand that error coins gain their value not just because of mistakes, but because of the story they tell, the uniqueness they embody, and the fact that no two are truly identical, making each surviving example almost like a fingerprint of minting history. And when you hold a 2000 D dime with errors, you are not simply holding money, you are holding a rare artifact that represents both human error and mechanical imperfection. And paradoxically, it is these imperfections that collectors prize most, since perfection is common but mistakes are scarce. And as coin collectors and dealers know, the hunt for error coins is thrilling because it feels like treasure hunting in everyday life. And the 2000 D dime has become one of those modern treasures whose fame only grows as its story spreads across auctions, coin shows, and online communities. And while some people may wonder why anyone would pay such a huge price for a flawed coin, the answer lies in the combination of scarcity, desirability, and investment potential, because serious collectors know that as time passes and more people search their change, fewer and fewer pristine error examples remain, thus raising the coin's value over time. And we should also consider that in the broader field of coin collecting there are other famous error coins such as the 1955 double die penny, the 1943 copper penny, or the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarter, each of which has fetched impressive sums because of the same factors of rarity and error. But the 2000 D dime stands out as part of a newer generation of error coins that proves even modern coinage can contain treasures worth small fortunes, and this drives more attention and excitement into the hobby, drawing in new collectors who realize they don't need to search only ancient coins or centuries-old rarities, but that even their pocket change from the turn of the millennium might hold surprises. And as we continue exploring the details, it is worth breaking down some of the specific minting mistakes that can appear on a 2000 D dime. For example, off-center strikes occur when the blank is not properly aligned with the die and only part of the design is struck, leaving a crescent of blank metal. And the more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable the coin, while double die obverse errors can cause the word Liberty or the date 2000 to appear with a ghostly shadow or doubling effect, creating an instantly noticeable oddity that collectors adore. Then there are die cracks which may look like raised veins running across Roosevelt's face or the reverse torch, giving each coin a distinctive appearance. And sometimes the mint mark itself shows doubling, fading, or even a repunched effect where it looks like the D has been struck more than once. All of these anomalies, when combined with pristine condition and rarity, can push the value skyward, and the 2000D dime with such qualities is exactly why it has become known for sales around $350,000. And beyond the technical explanations, we should also acknowledge the human fascination with the idea that ordinary objects can conceal extraordinary worth, because stories of rare coins discovered in everyday life feed into the dream that anyone, anywhere, might stumble upon a hidden fortune, and in fact countless media reports exist of families discovering error coins in old jars, estates, or pocket change, which suddenly turn into windfalls when taken to auction. And this dream is part of what keeps coin collecting alive, because it is not just about numismatics, it is about the possibility of discovery, about history hidden in plain sight, and the 2000D dime perfectly embodies this sense of hidden value. And when collectors or investors look at this coin, they see not just 10 cents, but a unique combination of circumstances, errors, and survival that together elevate it into six-figure territory. And for those new to the hobby, it is always worth learning how to identify such error coins by studying the coin closely under magnification, comparing details to standard issues, and consulting reliable numismatic resources or professional grading services that can authenticate and certify the errors, because authenticity is critical, as there are many altered or counterfeit coins floating around, and only true mint errors command these massive premiums. And with certification from respected grading services like PCGS or NGC, collectors gain confidence and the market value becomes more solid. So in summary, the 2000D dime's journey from a 10-cent coin to a $350,000 rarity is a story about chance, human error, mechanical imperfection, collector passion, and the incredible value that emerges when all these elements collide. And it teaches us that sometimes the smallest things in life can hold the biggest surprises, that rarity and uniqueness can outweigh face value, and that with patience, knowledge, and a keen eye, anyone has the chance to discover something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. So keep searching your change, keep learning about mint errors, and never underestimate the power of a tiny coin, because as the case of the 2000D dime shows, one small disc of metal can be worth not just its 10 cents, but a life-changing fortune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is why this coin continues to fascinate, inspire, and excite collectors all over the world. Where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, and in this episode we are going to explore one of the most astonishing stories from American numismatics, the incredible 2000p one-dime coin from the United States of America, a coin that carries a face value of just 10 cents but has shocked collectors and the coin market alike by being valued at nearly $850,000. And the reason behind this jaw-dropping difference between its face value and its actual worth lies not in the common attributes that every dime carries, but in the extremely rare errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies that have made this coin not only unique but an absolute treasure for those who are fortunate enough to discover one. So let's go on this journey together as we unravel every detail, every possibility, and every mystery behind why such a tiny coin can command such a massive fortune. And to begin with, we need to understand the backdrop of the year 2000, when the Philadelphia Mint, marked with the P mint mark, produced millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes, a coin design that had been in circulation since 1946 following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. And under normal circumstances these dimes were struck in huge quantities, with little attention from collectors, because they were everyday coins meant for commerce, meant to be exchanged for goods and services. And in ordinary conditions no one would expect a dime minted in the year 2000 to have any significant value beyond the face value of 10 cents, but the world of coin collecting is filled with surprises, because in certain cases mistakes happen at the minting facilities, errors slip through quality control, and anomalies in dies, strikes, or even mint mark placements lead to coins that are fundamentally different from the rest of their batch. And these differences, no matter how small, can make the coin one of a kind or at least extremely scarce, and when scarcity combines with demand, the result is skyrocketing value. And that is exactly what has happened with the 2000p dime that has stunned the numismatic world with an auction price that reached as high as $850,000, turning what appears to be a humble dime into a treasure chest in miniature form. And now the key question we all want answered is what kind of mistakes, errors, or mint mark issues could possibly justify such an astronomical price? And here lies the essence of the story, because in the case of the 2000p dime, multiple factors converge, ranging from double die errors where the image or lettering appears to have been struck twice leading to a doubled appearance that sharp-eyed collectors immediately recognize, to off-center strikes where the coin's design is not properly aligned resulting in blank areas or skewed images that instantly catch attention, to even rarer mint mark anomalies where the P mint mark was either misplaced, partially missing, or in some reported cases even showing signs of being repunched, which means it was struck more than once leaving a ghostly trace of an extra mint mark. And when you add to this the possibility of planchette errors, where the metal disc used for striking the coin may have been improperly prepared, thinner or thicker than normal, or composed of unusual material, then the resulting coin becomes not just a dime but an object of numismatic fascination. And collectors know that such coins are literally once-in-a-lifetime finds, the type of pieces that elevate ordinary collections into legendary ones, and the 2000p dime valued at $850,000 is the perfect example, because not only does it carry an error but it is believed to be one of the very few existing specimens, making its rarity off the charts. And let us not forget that the value of a coin is also driven by the stories it tells, and the story of a dime struck at the dawn of a new millennium, slipping past the watchful eyes of the US Mint, escaping into circulation or being preserved by chance, only to be discovered years later as an ultra-rare gem, is precisely the kind of narrative that captivates both serious collectors and casual enthusiasts. And this is why when one such 2000p dime surfaced, it did not take long for the bidding wars at auctions to push the price from thousands into hundreds of thousands until it finally settled at $850,000, forever cementing this little coin's place in the Hall of Fame of American rarities. And now imagine the thrill of someone casually checking their pocket change or rummaging through an old coin jar and stumbling across such a coin. It would be like winning the lottery with a piece of loose change, and that possibility is what keeps the excitement alive among treasure hunters and coin enthusiasts who continue to search tirelessly through dimes from the year 2000 in hopes of finding one of these elusive pieces. But while the jackpot discovery is rare, the broader lesson here is that every coin tells a story and every coin deserves a closer look because errors, varieties, and anomalies are more common than most people realize. And for the 2000p dime, collectors are particularly on the lookout for double die obverse coins where the inscriptions like Liberty or the date 2000 appear doubled under magnification, or for examples where the mint mark P appears in a position slightly off from its usual placement or shows unusual characteristics suggesting a repunching error, or even for coins with striking weakness where certain details did not fully transfer during the minting process. And while individually these errors might not all fetch hundreds of thousands, in the case of the $850,000 dime it was the combination of an exceptionally rare and dramatic error plus the extremely limited number of surviving specimens that drove collectors into a frenzy. And this is why in numismatics context is everything. Rarity is everything, condition is everything, and demand is everything, and all these forces converged perfectly for the 2000p dime to create an $850,000 miracle. And now let's broaden our perspective and understand why errors hold such high appeal in the coin market, because in essence minting errors represent a deviation from the perfection and standardization that mints strive for. They are unintended works of art born out of mechanical mishaps, human oversight, or equipment failure. And because they are unintended, they are rare by definition, making them like hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. And while millions of flawless coins are struck every year, only a tiny handful carry mistakes, and that is why those few instantly become valuable. And history shows us many such cases, from the famous 1955 double die Lincoln cent to the 1913 Liberty head nickel, coins whose value soared because of their rarity and their errors. And the 2000p dime joins this illustrious club, proving once again that in the world of coins even the smallest difference can create monumental value. And what makes this story even more exciting for everyday people is the fact that such coins can sometimes slip into ordinary circulation, meaning that anyone, literally anyone, could be holding a fortune without even realizing it. And that is why collectors often advise to always check your change, always look carefully at the coins you handle, because you never know if one of them could be that life-changing piece. And for the 2000p dime, the hope and curiosity it generates is immense, because although only a handful may exist, the dream of finding one continues to inspire coin hunters across the country and even around the world. And beyond errors and mint mark issues, we also need to consider the role of grading and authentication, Because for a coin to achieve such astronomical value it must be authenticated by professional grading services who verify the legitimacy of the error and assess the condition of the coin, and in numismatics condition is critical because higher grade coins with sharper details, minimal wear, and better eye appeal command higher premiums. So when the 2000p dime achieved its $850,000 valuation it was not just because of the error itself but also because of the coin's preservation, its condition, and the fact that leading grading companies certified it as genuine, which reassured collectors and fueled competitive bidding. And in many ways that combination of error rarity, mint mark uniqueness, condition quality, and collector demand created a perfect storm for this dime's extraordinary value, and as we reflect on this story we realize that coins are more than just currency, they are historical artifacts, they are pieces of art, and they are windows into the processes, mistakes, and human stories behind the machinery of mints, and sometimes those mistakes transform ordinary coins into legends, just as the 2000p dime has become. And as we conclude our journey into the world of this incredible coin, remember that the magic of coin collecting lies not only in the pursuit of wealth but in the thrill of discovery, the joy of learning, and the wonder of holding history in your hands. So the next time you come across a dime from the year 2000, especially with a P mint mark, take a closer look, examine the details, because you never know, you just might be staring at a piece of numismatic history worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And with that inspiring thought we wrap up our deep dive into the 2000p dime, a coin that proves how a simple error can transform 10 cents into $850,000, leaving us all amazed at the hidden treasures waiting to be found in everyday change. Where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, and in particular, we're going to explore one of the most surprising stories in modern numismatics, the case of the 2001 P1 dime coin from the United States. Coin that in ordinary circulation is worth only 10 cents, a piece of change you might pass along without a second thought while buying a cup of coffee. Yet under extraordinary circumstances it has been valued by collectors and auctioneers at an almost unbelievable figure of $90,000. That's right, 90 million cents. And what makes this story so compelling for coin enthusiasts and casual viewers alike is the fact that this astronomical value doesn't come from the coin being minted out of precious metals like gold or platinum but rather from the tiny imperfections, errors, mistakes, and quirks in its production that make it an absolute rarity in the numismatic market. So let us dive into the intricate history, production process, possible mint errors, varieties, and collector psychology that all converge to create such a massive gap between the face value of a humble dime and the staggering worth it can achieve when struck under very unusual conditions. Because once you understand why and how such coins exist you will never look at pocket change the same way again, and perhaps you might even find yourself checking every dime you hold in the hope of uncovering a treasure that could change your life forever. To set the stage we first need to talk about the dime itself, the United States 10-cent coin, which is the smallest in physical size of all American circulating coins and has long been an essential part of everyday transactions, first authorized by the Coinage Act of 1792 and featuring a long line of designs from the draped bust to the capped bust, seated Liberty, Barber, Mercury, and finally the Roosevelt dime that we are all familiar with today, the Roosevelt design being introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt shortly after his death, design that has remained remarkably consistent through the decades with only minor modifications, particularly in mint marks and production techniques, and by 2001 the Philadelphia Mint was producing millions of these coins, each bearing the P mint mark under the portrait of Roosevelt, struck in a composition of copper nickel clad over a pure copper core, a standard alloy for dimes since 1965 when silver was removed from circulation due to rising metal costs, and thus a 2001 P dime in ordinary form is worth only its face value of 10 cents, perhaps slightly more to a collector if found in uncirculated mint state condition or as part of a complete set, but certainly nowhere near life-changing wealth. So what exactly transforms one such coin into a numismatic marvel valued at nearly $1 million? The answer lies in the fascinating world of minting errors and varieties, accidents or anomalies that occur during the production process of coins, and while most are caught and destroyed at the mint, some slip through quality control and enter circulation, and those that do are often discovered years later by keen-eyed collectors or even ordinary people who happen to notice something unusual about their change. And among these errors there are categories like double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchette strikes, transitional errors, repunched mint marks, and missing design elements, each producing coins that vary in rarity, desirability, and thus market value. And in the case of the 2001 P dime, the story centers around a combination of factors including mint mark anomalies, striking errors, and die preparation mistakes that together produced a specimen unlike any other, a coin so unique that collectors were willing to bid extraordinary sums to acquire it. To understand why such errors matter so much, we need to walk through how coins are actually made, a process that begins with blank planchets, the flat metal discs that are fed into massive coining presses, where engraved dies strike them with tremendous force, impressing the designs of Liberty, Roosevelt, or whichever design is intended onto the coin, and the placement of mint marks is either directly engraved on the die or, in earlier years, added separately. And while technology has improved, mistakes can still happen, such as dies misaligned, hubs doubled, letters punched twice, or even the wrong planchet accidentally being used. And because millions of coins are struck each year, one might assume the chances of finding something wrong are high, but in fact the opposite is true because mints are under strict quality controls, making any error that does escape into circulation a true rarity. For the 2001 P dime, one of the most intriguing error types reported is a dramatic misstrike where the design is doubled, particularly around the lettering and Roosevelt's profile, creating the appearance of a double die obverse, one of the most sought-after forms of mint error in numismatics, because it indicates that during the hubbing process the die was impressed twice out of alignment, leading to a shadowed or doubled appearance on the coin itself, and such coins, especially when the doubling is strong and obvious, can bring huge premiums, as seen with the famous 1955 doubled die cent or the 1972 doubled die Lincoln penny, which are valued in the tens of thousands. So imagine a similar rarity occurring on a modern dime, with fewer known examples, and you start to see why collectors might be willing to pay astronomical sums. But doubling alone isn't enough to push a dime into nearly $1 million category. What seems to have happened with the ultra-rare 2001 P dime is a convergence of anomalies, with a combination of doubling, a misplaced or repunched mint mark that created an odd-looking P on the coin, possibly resembling a D, or even being struck twice to create a ghostly echo of the letter, alongside subtle planchet flaws that make the coin appear unlike any other. And because collectors place such high value on uniqueness, a single specimen of this nature can become the holy grail of dime collectors. Add to this the psychology of auctions, where two or more wealthy collectors bid against each other to secure a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, and the price can skyrocket far beyond rational expectations, pushing a 10-cent piece into a $90,000 phenomenon. But what makes this story even more fascinating is the broader set of possibilities that accompany the discovery of such an error coin, because minting errors can manifest in endless ways, some subtle, some dramatic, and each has its own potential to attract collector attention. For instance, a 2001 dime struck off-center by 50% where only half of Roosevelt's face appears on the planchet, with the rest blank, would be considered highly collectible and could fetch thousands, while one struck on a foreign planchet, perhaps a blank intended for a cent or a foreign denomination, would be even more spectacular, creating a lighter or heavier dime that doesn't match expected weight specifications. And such anomalies are instantly intriguing to numismatists who specialize in error coins. Another possibility is a transitional error, where the wrong metal composition is used, and while by 2001 the dime was well into its clad era, mistakes do happen, and if a leftover silver planchet or experimental alloy somehow made its way into the coining press, the resulting coin would be one of a kind, blending modern design with obsolete metal, and thus commanding enormous value. Similarly, die adjustment strikes, sometimes called weak strikes, where the coin appears faint because the dies were not properly pressed, or coins with missing elements like no reeded edges, missing mottos, or blanks where Liberty should be, can all generate high premiums. Collectors thrive on rarity, on owning something that no one else can, and that emotional drive often translates into astonishing prices. Consider also the condition factor. A mint error dime from 2001 found in pristine mint state condition, without circulation wear, would be exponentially more valuable than one that had been spent and worn down. And thus the survival of such an error in perfect preservation adds to its mythology, because it means someone either set it aside immediately or discovered it quickly after striking, ensuring it didn't suffer the fate of everyday coinage. The possibility that more such dimes could exist, undiscovered in rolls, boxes, or forgotten jars of change, only adds fuel to the imagination of collectors, And this is part of why the story of the 2001 P dime valued at nearly $1 million captures so much attention, because it suggests that hidden treasures could still be waiting in circulation, overlooked by millions of people who see only 10 cents when they should be looking for a potential fortune. The broader lesson here is that error coins act almost like historical accidents frozen in metal, tiny mistakes that slipped past countless eyes at the mint but eventually became cherished by those who recognize their significance. And while the 2001 P dime might seem mundane at first glance, in its error form it becomes a symbol of rarity, uniqueness, and the unpredictable nature of numismatics, where value is not dictated by metal content but by the human stories, the quirks of production, and the passions of collectors. Some may wonder why anyone would pay such astronomical sums for such a coin, and the answer lies not just in rarity but in prestige, for the collector who owns such a dime is not simply holding a piece of change but a conversation piece, a work of accidental art, and a trophy that sets them apart from others in the collecting world. And just as art collectors spend millions on unique paintings or sculptures, so too do coin collectors push prices to breathtaking. Where we explore the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the stories behind ordinary-looking pocket change that can sometimes turn out to be worth a life-changing fortune. And today we are diving deep into one of the most mind-blowing cases in recent numismatic history, the 2016 D1 dime coin from the United States of America that on the surface appears to be just a simple 10-cent coin, a coin you might easily overlook, spend without a thought, or find sitting at the bottom of your drawer mixed with other small change. Yet this particular dime, because of its unique errors, mint mark mistakes, and other striking anomalies, has been appraised by collectors and experts at an astonishing estimated value of $800,000, which is mind-blowingly different from its mere 10-cent face value. And in this video script we will explore in exhaustive detail exactly why such a small coin can command such a big price, what errors make it special, what possibilities and scenarios contributed to its extreme rarity, how minting mistakes can occur in the US mint facilities, why collectors go crazy over such anomalies, how to identify one if you think you may have a 2016 D dime with similar traits, and ultimately why understanding these error coins is crucial for anyone who wants to appreciate the hidden value in everyday money that often goes unnoticed until experts bring their magnifying glasses and years of knowledge into play. So let us begin by examining the background of the 2016 D dime, minted in Denver, Colorado, a facility known for producing billions of coins every year. And within that enormous scale of production, errors can and do occur, but not every error is created equal. Some are minor and barely worth more than face value, while others are extreme rarities that can transform the humble dime into an artifact worth more than luxury cars, houses, or even someone's lifelong savings, and the 2016 D dime is one such case where the errors combined in a unique way, elevating its value from common change to numismatic legend. And among the possibilities are doubled dies, where during the minting process the die strikes the coin more than once with slight misalignment, creating visible doubling on letters, numbers, or designs, and if on a 2016 D dime this doubling occurs on crucial features like the word liberty, the date, or the motto "In God We Trust," it immediately grabs the attention of error coin specialists. Another possibility is a misaligned die strike, where one side of the coin is struck off-center creating an unusual, almost surreal appearance that deviates from the precision normally expected of US mint products. And then there are mint mark errors, and for the 2016 dime the D mint mark indicates Denver, but sometimes the mint mark is repunched, misplaced, or even missing altogether. And such varieties drastically increase value, and in very rare cases an experimental planchette, the blank metal disc on which the design is struck, can be fed into the machine, resulting in a dime struck on a wrong metal composition or on a foreign planchette, something that can happen during transition years or testing phases. And when discovered decades later, these coins become immensely desirable because they represent tangible mistakes that slipped through the careful quality control of one of the most secure coin production facilities in the world. And in the case of this famous 2016 D dime worth $800,000, experts believe a combination of misstruck details, a double die, and a mint mark anomaly made it unique enough that no other known examples exist. And when something is unique in numismatics, rarity is the king that drives prices sky high, because collectors are always willing to pay extraordinary sums to own something that no one else on the planet can boast of having. And this scarcity factor is why such coins command auction prices far beyond their intrinsic metallic worth. And if you think about it, The dime itself is composed primarily of copper and nickel, metals that are not particularly precious on their own, yet the story, the rarity, the anomaly, and the demand from passionate collectors are what give it such monumental value, and it is important to understand that not every 2016 D dime is worth more than face value. Millions were minted and most of them are ordinary, but that one specific specimen, or a handful of specimens, escaped into circulation with the perfect storm of errors, and when discovered, authenticated, and graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, they became legends in the coin community. And imagine for a moment the thrill of a regular person checking their pocket change, pulling out a dime, and then learning it could be worth nearly $1 million. That's the kind of life-changing discovery that makes people double-check every coin they receive, and this is exactly why so many collectors and treasure hunters search tirelessly through rolls of dimes purchased from banks or through jars of coins saved over decades, because you never know when you might come across that jackpot. And now let's dive even deeper into how such an error can happen, because many people assume the US Mint is flawless, but in truth, even with modern technology, the sheer scale of coin production means mistakes are inevitable, and dies wear out, they clash, they break, or they get improperly prepared, and a single defective die can strike thousands of coins before being replaced, and among those thousands sometimes one or two display dramatic anomalies while the rest may show only faint signs, and spotting those dramatic ones is like finding a needle in a haystack, but when found, their uniqueness ensures massive collector demand. And mint mark errors are especially fascinating because prior to 1990 mint marks were hand-punched onto the dies, creating opportunities for variations. But even in more recent years, anomalies can still occur during the die preparation process, and a mispunched D or a misplaced mint mark on a 2016 dime would instantly make it stand out, and couple that with a double die obverse where the date 2016 appears to have a shadow or ghost-like second impression, and suddenly you have a coin that cannot be replicated, making it essentially one of a kind. And that kind of uniqueness translates directly into monetary value when offered at auction. Because wealthy collectors, museums, and investors will bid aggressively for the chance to own it, and let's not forget the psychology of collecting, where people are driven by the desire to possess rarity, prestige, and history all embodied in a tiny piece of metal. And when stories of such coins spread online, through auction catalogs, and through numismatic forums, their mystique only grows, feeding into higher valuations. And that is precisely what happened with this legendary 2016 D dime. Now carrying an estimated worth of $800,000, a staggering leap from its 10-cent origins, and we should also consider the broader lesson here, which is that coins are not just money, they are artifacts, miniature works of art, and historical witnesses to the era in which they were struck. And when accidents happen in their creation, those accidents can actually increase their value instead of diminishing it, because they tell a story of human error, technological limits, and the unpredictability of mass production. And this is why serious collectors meticulously study error types such as off-centers, broad strikes, capped dies, multiple strikes, rotated dies, wrong planches, missing clad layers, and so many others, each representing a different window into how the minting process can go awry, and each with its own market demand. And among these categories the rarest combinations, like the ones present on the 2016 D dime, skyrocket in value because they combine multiple unusual features into one coin. And with auction records showing collectors paying 6 or even 7 figures for such rarities, it's no wonder people dream of finding one. And the beauty of this hunt is that it democratizes collecting, because anyone with spare change has a chance, however slim, to stumble upon a fortune. And that is what makes this hobby so exciting. So if you are watching this video, let this story inspire you to start paying closer attention to your coins, because while most dimes will buy you exactly 10 cents worth of goods, the right one could buy you a mansion. And as incredible as it sounds, this is the real magic of numismatics, where history, rarity, error, and human fascination converge into extraordinary value. And with that, our deep dive into the astonishing story of the 2016 D dime worth $800,000 shows how even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises, and why it is always worth looking twice at what you hold in your hands, because you never know when a fortune is hiding in plain sight.